Welcome to this audiobook storytelling experience. Take a breath, slow your thoughts, and allow yourself to listen. This is not a story meant to rush. It is a story meant to unfold. A story about dreams, about fear, about listening to the quiet voice that speaks when the world is silent. This is an original long-form storytelling inspired by the timeless philosophy of the Alchemist. Not a retelling, but a journey of meaning. And it begins where all meaningful journeys begin, with restlessness. There was once a young soul who lived a simple life, not poor, not rich, but familiar. Days followed patterns, mornings repeated evenings. Weeks passed quietly. From the outside, life looked fine, but inside, something stirred. A feeling without words, a pull without direction. It arrived most often in silence, late at night. When the noise of the day faded, a question appeared. Is this all? Not spoken aloud, not dramatic, just present. Many people feel this and ignore it. They bury it beneath routine, they call it imagination, they call it distraction, but some cannot ignore it. For this soul, the feeling grew stronger, not dissatisfaction, but curiosity, a sense that life held more than what was visible. And then the dream came. Not once, but again and again. A dream that did not fade with waking. A dream that lingered like unfinished music. In the dream, there was movement, a journey, a sense of purpose. No clear instructions, no guarantees, only the feeling that something awaited. The dream did not promise ease, it promised meaning, and meaning is dangerous. Meaning disrupts comfort. Meaning challenges certainty. The soul began to notice signs everywhere, in conversations, in books, in passing moments, words like destiny, purpose, calling. Once these words enter awareness, they cannot be unheard. Life continued, but it felt thinner. Routine became heavy. Predictable days felt dull. Not because they were bad, but because they were unchosen. And so the question grew louder. What if? What if there is more? What if the dream is not random? What if it is an invitation? Fear responded immediately. What if you fail? What if you lose what you have? What if you are wrong? Fear always speaks first, but it does not speak last. The heart answered quietly. What if you do not try? That question lingered. The soul stood at the edge of decision, a place everyone reaches eventually. Stay or move. Staying meant safety, familiar ground, predictable outcomes. Moving meant uncertainty, loss, possibility, and possibility is terrifying. But something else was terrifying too. The thought of waking up years later, wondering what might have been. So the decision was made, not with confidence, but with honesty. I will go, not knowing where, not knowing how. Just knowing that staying would cost more than leaving. The moment the decision formed, the world seemed to shift. Opportunities appeared, conversations aligned, paths opened. Not because the world changed, but because attention did. Once you commit, you begin to notice what was invisible before. The journey began simply with a step away from familiarity. Every step carried doubt. Every step carried excitement. Freedom feels like fear at first. Leaving comfort is not heroic. It is lonely. There were moments of regret, moments of longing for the known. The mind whispered, turn back. This was foolish. But the heart remained steady. You asked for this. Soon. Loss arrived. Unexpected. Sudden. A setback that felt unfair. Disorienting. The soul found itself alone. Stripped of certainty, stripped of resources. This is where many journeys end, because disappointment convinces us that dreams are lies. But disappointment is not rejection, it is instruction. Here, at the lowest point, a choice appeared again. Quit or adapt. The soul chose adaptation. Work appeared, simple, unglamorous, tasks that seemed unrelated to destiny. But destiny rarely arrives fully formed. It reveals itself through responsibility. Each day of work strengthened discipline, observation, patience. Skills developed quietly. The soul learned how effort compounds, how consistency builds confidence, how showing up creates opportunity. Slowly, life stabilized, comfort returned, and once again, the crossroad appeared. Stay or continue. This is the most dangerous moment, when life becomes comfortable enough to forget the dream. Many stop here. They call it maturity. They call it realism. But the dream does not disappear. It waits. And waiting dreams turn into regret. The soul felt it again, that quiet pull. The path was not finished, so comfort was released. Again, and the journey resumed, this time toward vastness, the desert, a place that mirrors the inner world, wide, silent, unforgiving. The desert removes distraction. It forces listening. Days passed in silence. Thoughts grew louder. Fears surfaced. Doubt resurfaced. But so did clarity. The soul began to understand. Movement creates understanding, not thinking. In stillness, the heart spoke clearly. The desert taught patience, not waiting, but trusting. Trusting that effort without immediate reward still matters. Along the way, teachers appeared, not as authorities, but as mirrors. They did not give answers. They asked questions. What do you want? What are you willing to risk? What are you afraid to lose? Each question peeled away illusion. The soul realized something profound. Fear was not protecting anything valuable. It was protecting comfort, and comfort had already been left behind. As the journey deepened, love appeared, unexpected, gentle. Love brought warmth, belonging, rest, and with love came fear again. Fear of loss, fear of choosing wrong. The soul wondered, can I have love and purpose, or must I choose? The answer did not come in words. It came in feeling. True love does not ask you to abandon yourself. Anything that demands your silence is not aligned with your truth. So the journey continued, not away from love, but with love held gently, trusting that what is real does not disappear. The desert tested the soul one final time, with uncertainty, with danger, with surrender. This was the transformation, the moment when seeking turned into knowing. The soul no longer chased the dream, it walked with it. Fear still existed, but it no longer led. Purpose led, and with purpose came peace. Not the absence of struggle, but the presence of meaning. The treasure was closer now, but the soul was already changed, because the real alchemy had occurred. Fear into courage, doubt into direction, longing into clarity. This is the end of part 1. The journey has begun, but it is far from complete. The desert had already stripped away comfort, but it had not yet stripped away illusion. Illusion is subtle. It hides inside hope. It disguises itself as certainty. The soul believed it understood the path now, believed the hardest trials were behind. But growth does not move in straight lines. It spirals, just when clarity feels stable. Life deepens the lesson. The caravan moved slowly across endless sand. Days blurred together, heat during the day, cold at night. Silence expanded. In that silence, the soul noticed something unsettling. Without distraction, there was nothing to blame, nothing to escape into, only self. Most people fear loneliness not because they dislike being alone, but because being alone reveals what has been avoided. Regret, doubt, unanswered questions. The soul faced memories of earlier choices, moments of hesitation, times when fear nearly won. A realization surfaced. The greatest obstacle had never been the world. It had been hesitation. Hesitation disguised as logic, as preparation, as waiting for the right moment. But the right moment had only appeared after movement. This understanding settled deeply. Action creates clarity, not the other way around. One evening, as the sun dissolved into gold and red across the horizon, a quiet voice within asked, if the treasure is never found, would the journey still be worth it? The question lingered. It was not a trick, it was a test. For the first time, the soul answered honestly. Yes, because something had already been gained. Strength, awareness, courage. These could not be stolen. The desert wind shifted that night. Stronger, unpredictable. Whispers of conflict traveled between caravans. Rumors of danger ahead. Fear returned, louder than before. But something had changed. Fear no longer controlled movement. It only informed it. There is a difference. Controlling fear paralyzes. Informing fear sharpens awareness. The soul learned to listen without surrendering. Days later, chaos erupted. Not metaphorical chaos, real chaos. Uncertainty, threat. A moment when survival felt fragile. Everything external seemed to collapse, and in collapse, truth emerges. When you believe you might lose everything, you discover what actually matters. Status did not matter. Possessions did not matter. Even the image of success did not matter. Only alignment mattered. Was the soul aligned with its calling, or not? In that moment, there was no regret, no longing for the life left behind, only presence. And presence is power. The crisis passed, not cleanly, not easily, but it passed. Afterward, silence returned. Different now. The desert no longer felt hostile. It felt honest. The soul began to understand the language of the world more clearly. Not magical language, not fantasy, but patterns. Effort followed by opportunity. Courage followed by guidance. Surrender followed by insight. It was not that the universe granted wishes. It responded to commitment. Commitment transforms perception. When fully committed, you notice connections, you sense timing, you trust instinct. The soul practiced listening deeply, listening to footsteps in sand, listening to the rhythm of breath, listening to intuition. Intuition had once felt unreliable, now it felt precise. Intuition is quiet. Fear is loud. The difference became clear. One morning before sunrise, while the sky was still indigo, the soul felt an undeniable certainty. The treasure was near, not because of signs in the sand, but because of calm within. When panic disappears, you are close. Arrival is not a location, it is a state. Still, the journey continued forward. Obstacles appeared again. A reminder that proximity to a goal does not remove resistance. In fact, resistance often intensifies near breakthrough. The soul faced humiliation, doubt from others, mockery, voices saying, "You chased illusion, you misunderstood the signs." In earlier days, these voices would have crushed belief. Now, they felt distant, because belief was no longer external, it was internal. Belief rooted in experience cannot be shaken by opinion. There was one final loss, unexpected, sharp. A moment when everything seemed reversed, standing alone again, with almost nothing. The soul laughed softly, not from madness, but from understanding. The journey had never been about possession, it had been about becoming. In that awareness, peace settled, and then, in the most ordinary way, the treasure revealed itself. Not dramatic, not explosive, quiet, buried where it had always waited, close to the origin, close to the beginning. A realization unfolded. The dream had led outward, so the soul could return inward. The treasure required distance, not because it was far, but because the soul was not ready to see it. Readiness is earned through doubt, through persistence, through surrender. Holding the treasure did not create pride. It created gratitude. Gratitude for the robbery, for the desert, for the loneliness, for the love, for the fear. Every step had been necessary. The soul understood something now that cannot be taught, only lived. Dreams choose us for a reason. They are not random. They reveal the shape of who we are meant to become. Ignoring them does not remove them. It only postpones growth. Returning home felt different. The hills were unchanged, the sky the same, but perception had transformed. Ordinary moments now shimmered with meaning. A breeze felt like conversation. Silence felt like companionship. The soul realized the world had always been speaking. It simply had not been listening. This is the true alchemy. Turning noise into clarity, turning fear into wisdom, turning longing into direction. The treasure was never just gold, it was awareness, and awareness cannot be lost. What happens after the dream is reached, after the search ends, after the silence returns? Because fulfillment does not end the journey, it changes it. When the soul returns to familiar land, there was no celebration waiting, no audience, no applause. Life does not announce transformation, it simply allows you to live it. The treasure rested quietly, but the greater weight was invisible. Responsibility, not responsibility to others, but responsibility to self. When you know who you are, you can no longer pretend otherwise. This realization arrived slowly. The soul noticed how easy it would be to fall back into old patterns, to blend in, to shrink curiosity, to move without intention. Transformation does not protect you from forgetfulness. It demands remembrance. Each day became a choice, live aligned or drift. Drifting is subtle. It feels harmless, comfortable. Alignment requires presence, attention, courage. The soul learned that fulfillment does not remove fear, it refines it. Fear now whispered differently. What if you lose this clarity? What if you disappoint yourself? What if you waste what you have gained? These fears were quieter, but deeper. Success carries its own tests without struggle. Discipline weakens without longing. Purpose dulls. So the soul practiced awareness deliberately, listening to breath, observing thought, staying connected to intention. This is the work no one applauds. Inner maintenance. Many people chase dreams believing arrival will complete them, but arrival only reveals the next responsibility. To live truthfully, the soul realized something profound. Meaning is not sustained by achievement, it is sustained by alignment. Alignment with values, with intuition, with contribution. Without contribution, fulfillment stagnates, so the soul began to share. Not preaching, not teaching, simply living openly, listening deeply, speaking honestly, offering presence. Others noticed. Some felt inspired, some felt uncomfortable. Truth does that. Not everyone welcomes reflection. Not everyone wants to be reminded of unlived dreams. The soul learned not to convince, not to persuade, only to embody. Embodiment speaks louder than explanation. There were days of doubt again, days when clarity felt distant. This did not signal failure, it signaled humanity. Growth is not linear. It breathes. Expansion, contraction, awareness, confusion. The soul learned to trust the rhythm. Not every day is meant for progress. Some days are meant for rest. Rest is not retreat, it is integration. Without rest, wisdom becomes brittle. The journey had taught endurance. Now it taught gentleness. The desert had hardened resolve. Home softened it. Both were necessary. The soul also learned to sit with uncertainty, even after dreams are fulfilled. Life remains unpredictable. Certainty is not the goal. Resilience is. Resilience born from knowing. Whatever comes, you can listen, you can adapt, you can move again. This is the true gift of the journey, not treasure, not recognition. Trust in your own ability to navigate change. The soul began to see life differently. Every encounter became symbolic. Every challenge an invitation. Nothing wasted, nothing random. The world felt like a conversation rather than a battlefield. And this changed everything. Instead of pushing, the soul responded. Instead of forcing, the soul aligned. Action became quieter, more precise. Urgency softened into clarity. There was no need to rush. Destiny is not impatient. It unfolds. The soul understood something that once felt impossible. You do not chase purpose. You create space for it. Space through honesty, through courage, through listening. Dreams arrive when the noise fades. And they ask one question: will you trust yourself enough to follow? The journey had proven the answer. Yes, But trust is not permanent. It must be renewed. Every morning, every choice, the soul practiced gratitude, not as ritual, but as awareness. Gratitude for the uncertainty, for the losses, for the detours, because without them, there would have been no depth, no clarity, no wisdom. The treasure had changed form again. It was no longer something held. It was something lived, a way of moving through the world, open, attentive, courageous. This is where most stories end, but life continues, and so does the journey. The soul knew now there would be new dreams, new restlessness, new deserts, and when they arrive, there would be no resistance, only listening, only movement, only trust. The journey now turns outward again, not toward treasure, not toward distant horizons, but toward impact. When a soul learns to live aligned, it begins to affect the world without trying, not loudly, not dramatically, but steadily. The young seeker no longer felt young, not because of age, but because of depth. Experience had carved awareness into perception. Where once there had been urgency, now there was steadiness. Where once there had been doubt, now there was trust. People began to notice not the story, not the desert, not the treasure, but the presence. Presence is rare. In a world rushing forward, presence feels magnetic. When the soul listened, others felt heard. When the soul spoke, words carried weight, not because they were complex, but because they were honest. Honesty resonates. Some asked for guidance. The soul did not position itself as a master, only as a traveler, sharing not instruction, but perspective. It became clear that everyone carries a hidden restlessness. Some mask it with success, some silence it with distraction, some drown it in noise, but it remains. The soul recognized the look, that distant gaze, that subtle longing, and instead of giving answers, the soul asked questions. What do you truly want? What are you avoiding? What would you pursue if fear disappeared? Questions awaken awareness. Answers are temporary. Awareness is transformative. Some listened, some resisted. Resistance is natural. Dreams threaten stability, but even resistance plants seeds. The soul understood that influence is not force, it is example. Living aligned becomes permission for others to do the same. Without pressure, without demand, just possibility. This is legacy. Not monuments, not titles, but energy carried forward. The desert lessons began appearing in ordinary life. When conflict arose, silence replaced reaction. When uncertainty emerged, curiosity replaced panic. When opportunity appeared, commitment replaced hesitation. Each choice reinforced identity. Identity shaped by action, not by declaration. The soul saw clearly now. The world reflects internal state. When fear dominates, threat appears everywhere. When trust deepens, opportunity becomes visible. This is not magic, it is perception. Perception guides decision. Decision shapes reality. The young seeker once believed treasure would bring security. Now security came from self-knowledge. Nothing external could replace that. Years passed, not rushed, not wasted, simply lived. The soul no longer searched for signs constantly, because alignment created flow. Flow does not eliminate effort, it aligns effort with purpose. There were still difficult days. Loss returned in new forms. Change disrupted comfort again, but the response had transformed. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening?" the soul asked, "How can I grow through this?" Growth had become natural, not forced. The greatest shift was this. The journey was no longer about becoming someone. It was about being fully present, fully honest, fully engaged. Most people wait to feel ready. But readiness is built through participation. The soul had participated in fear, in doubt, in risk, in surrender, and each participation built resilience. The greatest discovery was simple. You are never separate from your path. The path is shaped by your willingness. Willingness to listen, to act, to adapt. The treasure once buried in sand now existed in every interaction, in every courageous conversation, in every quiet act of integrity. Wealth became broader, not only material, but emotional, spiritual, relational. The soul realized something subtle. Purpose is not one destination. It evolves. As you evolve, the dream that once required departure now required integration. Living daily with the same courage that once fueled escape. Escape is easier than integration. Integration demands consistency, and consistency builds legacy. Children grew, communities shifted, time moved. The soul did not cling to identity as a seeker, because identity can become another comfort. Instead, curiosity remained alive. New interests emerged. New paths whispered. Restlessness returned. But this time, it felt familiar, not threatening. The cycle was beginning again. Because life is not a single journey. It is many, each deeper than the last. The difference now, there was no hesitation. When the whisper came, the soul smiled. Listening had become instinct. The desert may look different next time. The challenge may wear another face. But the process remains. Listen, commit, adapt, trust, grow. This is the quiet rhythm of a meaningful life. The story of treasure was never about gold. It was about awakening. Awakening to the fact that dreams are invitations. Fear is a teacher. Loss is refinement. Love is strength. And movement is transformation. Every journey eventually returns to stillness. Not because movement ends, but because understanding settles. The soul now sees the full shape of the path. It began with restlessness, a quiet discomfort, a sense that life was asking for more attention. That restlessness was not a flaw, it was an invitation. Most people spend their lives trying to eliminate restlessness, to numb it, to outrun it. But restlessness is the beginning of meaning. It is the signal that something within you is alive and wants to grow. The soul answered that signal, not perfectly, not confidently, but honestly, and honesty was enough. The journey unfolded not because the soul was special, but because it was willing. Willing to leave, willing to fail, willing to listen, willing to continue. This willingness shaped everything. Along the way, fear appeared again and again. Fear of loss, fear of loneliness, fear of being wrong. But fear was never the enemy. Fear was the gate. On the other side of fear, clarity waited. Each time fear was faced, its voice softened, until eventually, it became guidance rather than resistance. Loss also played its role. Loss stripped illusion. Loss clarified values. Loss redirected attention. Without loss, growth remained shallow. The soul learned that what leaves often makes space for something truer. Love arrived not as a distraction, but as confirmation. Love did not demand sacrifice of purpose. It supported it. Love taught patience, trust, presence. And presence changed everything. The desert was not a place. It was a condition of silence, of exposure, of listening. Everyone enters a desert eventually, some externally, some internally. Those who resist the desert suffer. Those who listen transform. The soul listened. Teachers appeared. Not to instruct, but to reflect. The greatest teachers never tell you who to become. They help you hear who you already are. The treasure was never the goal. The treasure was the evidence. Evidence that courage creates alignment. That alignment creates opportunity. That opportunity reveals meaning. The real reward was not found. It was forged. Forged through choice, through movement, through trust. And when the treasure finally appeared, it did not complete the soul. It revealed it. Completion is a myth. Life is a process. Meaning deepens. It does not finish. The soul learned that fulfillment is not an ending. It is a responsibility to live honestly, to remain curious, to continue listening. Success did not remove struggle, it changed the relationship with it. Struggle became information, not punishment. Uncertainty became normal, not threatening. The world no longer felt like something to conquer. It felt like something to converse with. This changed how the soul moved. No longer forcing outcomes, no longer waiting passively, but participating. Participation is the essence of a meaningful life. You are not meant to observe your existence. You are meant to engage with it. Engagement requires risk, but risk creates vitality. Vitality keeps the heart awake. The soul understood something simple and profound. A meaningful life is not built by avoiding fear. It is built by responding to it. It is built by listening when something inside whispers, "There is more." It is built by stepping forward without guarantees. It is built by trusting that clarity follows commitment. Every person listening to this story stands somewhere on that same path. You may be at the beginning, feeling restlessness, feeling curiosity, feeling discomfort with the familiar, or you may be in the middle, facing loss, facing doubt, facing silence, or you may be returning, carrying wisdom, carrying depth, carrying responsibility. Wherever you are, the invitation is the same. Listen. Listen to what calls you. Listen to what frightens you. Listen to what excites you quietly. Your life is speaking. It always has been. The only question is whether you will answer. This story does not promise ease. It promises meaning. Meaning is not loud. It is steady. It sustains you through uncertainty. It gives direction when clarity fades. And it grows stronger the more you honor it. The journey never truly ends. It renews. Each time you choose courage. Each time you choose honesty. Each time you choose movement over stagnation. You step back onto the path. If this long-form audiobook storytelling resonated with you, if it helped you reflect, if it reminded you of something you already knew but had forgotten, stay with this channel. Subscribe for more deep motivational storytelling, more long-form journeys, more reflections designed for listening, working, resting, and living with intention. Thank you for listening. And remember, your dream is not random. Your fear is not a stop sign. And your journey is still unfolding.